This time on Film Ranker, we are looking at Sam Mendes. Mendes has only directed 8 films so far, including 2 Bonds, but he has already solidified his place at the top of the industry with a mix of styles and subjects that is pretty hard to match. His entire filmography is actually really good, but it is always fun to make a list, so let's go ahead and count them down from worst to best. Number 8. Spectre. Like I said, Sam Mendes has yet to make a bad film, so it's all a matter of degrees, but by his high standard, Spectre does fall a bit short. It is also important to remember that with huge franchises like this, the director's just one cog in the final creative team, but that said, the film that boasted the return of Ernst Stavros Blofeld tries to do a bit too much and takes too long doing it while never quite reaching the destination. It's great to see Q get more screen time, and Andrew Scott and Christoph Waltz are always welcome additions to anything, but this movie does need tightening, editing, and completing. Number 7. Skyfall. While Daniel Craig had already been embraced as Bond in his first films, this is the movie that solidified his legacy. Skyfall is a different kind of James Bond. In a lot of ways, it feels like the first of a new breed. It's bigger, louder, and maybe a little bit deeper than many that came before it. It's a globetrotting, train exploding, computer hacking, almost American action movie. But with that last act, it sets itself apart and adds some surprising notes to a character we had known forever. It's a lot of things at once, probably about 30 minutes too many things, and not all of them are for everyone, but to Mendes' credit, he is able to switch gears and pull most of them off. Number 6. Jarhead. There is a bit in Jarhead where Swafford hears a bit of 70s rock and comments about how his war didn't even get its own music. That sensibility is something Mendes is keenly aware of, as he grabs snippets of Full Metal Jacket and Platoon, but uses them to help find something that was uniquely Desert Storm. From the first shot, there's an overwhelming brightness and crispness that captures the desert heat and a lack of sentimentality that captures a modern war. Desert Storm may not have gotten its own music, but Sam Mendes gives it its own movie. Number 5. Road to Perdition. This is one of those movies you would never guess was based on a comic book. Road to Perdition is a father and son coming-of-age story wrapped in the very dark and bloody world of 1930s mobsters. Mendes captures the world perfectly, from rain-soaked alleys to country roads to trailer diners. It feels lived in, and it sure helps that Hanks, Newman, Law, and Craig are there to live in it. This movie may be passed a little bit under the radar, but that's a shame because it is a gem. Number 4. American Beauty. Mendes came out of the gates hot, winning his first Oscar with his first film, a story that mashes the ghost of the Amy Fisher trial into the framework of the dissatisfaction of middle America. Mendes himself has admitted that the film was probably a little bit overhyped at release, and both the style and content have maybe not aged as well as others in his list, but it is still an eye-opening look at family in suburbia with more than a few interesting things to say. Number 3. Away We Go. Mendes's most overlooked film is also one of his best. Written by the husband and wife team of Vendela Vida and the phenomenal Dave Eggers, Away We Go is a terrific road story of a couple about to have their first kids and trying to figure out how to be both grown-ups and parents. It's sweet and funny and reflective and has more than a handful of amazingly memorable scenes. It's a little bit like a grown-up Garden State, and the cast is great from head to toe, with Krasinski and Rudolph leading the way, and folks like Maggie Gyllenhaal, Jeff Daniels, Catherine O'Hara, and Allison Janney supplying an all-star supporting cast. Number 2, Revolutionary Road. Mendes grew a lot as both a filmmaker and a storyteller in the decade between American Beauty and this second visit to suburban sadness. It certainly helps that DiCaprio and Winslet are the leads, but everything about the film feels a little bit more patient and a little bit more polished, and the end result is a climax that is more understated but even more devastating. It's a movie about trying to push on through the disappointment of living an unfulfilled life, and Mendes does an outstanding job of juxtaposing the idyllic neighborhood of yesterday with a desperation bubbling just below that perfect veneer. It's not exactly uplifting, but it is incredible filmmaking. Number 1, 1917. There may be a little bit of that new shine to it, but for my money, newest movie is also the best. With 1917, Mendes makes a very different kind of war movie that drops the audience right into the heart of a story that is a little bit like Lord of the Rings walking through terrifying World War I Germany. A lot has been made of the single shot style, but the effect is hard to deny. It is immersive and it finds a weird balance that is somewhere between the classic stage and one of those VR rides. Like we saw with Birdman, there's a life to the one-shot technique that is impossible to deny. That said, it takes a heck of a director to pull it off, and nobody has ever pulled it off as well as Sam Mendes. And that's it. Let me know in the comments which films you feel are his best. Should Bonds be higher? Should 1917 be lower? Are you excited to see what he does next? Also, please do like and subscribe. And thanks so much to everyone that has finally pulled the channel up over 100 subscribers. Hopefully, I will see you all next time.